we were using mercury as probably the main medicine in the Civil War era in the West. And then now we know, okay, it's medicine, but it's toxic.
And serpentine too. Huh?
Yeah, it's so because of that changeability, there's in learning in memory, there's something called state-dependent memory. When you change the state, like mercury likes to do, oh, the temperature changed, oh, it just expanded, now it's these enzymes are working differently, the energy is different. First layer, which I call layer 5, it's the outermost layer, it's where we want to be. It's like, well, if my biggest complaint about my health is my skin is acting up, you know, they say there's 200 diseases and 3 creams, but that's things that suppress. But that's what you want. If anything, you want things to come out that don't belong. If we have a problem, it's because there's not enough of what we need, or there's too much of what we don't need. And so our integrity is what I call it, that system. Because integrity is a function, and so it's going to apply at every level of the model. Mm-hmm. The integrity function then creates an inner sanctuary of integrity. That's our nervous system. It's communication. Receives communication from its source and also communicates to all the other layers. Every cell in the body has nerve endings. Typically it's autonomic, sympathetic, parasympathetic nerve endings to regulate the function, the balance of function. Do I send my energy inside for digestion and repair? Do I send my energy outside to deal with, you know, the tiger? And then the third layer, deeper layer, is this gut tube for processing the material stuff. And also the lungs are part of that. They deal with the air environment, the external environment, so it's a different, interesting twist on the function, and that's really our starting point when we get to the spiritual development model that we'll be going on into maybe next time. The deeper layer from the gut tube, so you have this donut shape, this toroidal shape. You've got the gut tube is the inner part, and you've got the skin, and you've got the nervous system that's now inside toward the outside, back here. And so you got room for a couple more layers there. The next layer deep is the support system, like the connective tissue that supports the structure. The bones are the macroscopic. We got these bones, and then we have the collagen. But the collagen is really small, the bones are really big, but they have some similar functions. They maintain shape. The bones keep things from getting closer. They're a minimum separation chunk, right? And then the collagen is more like a rope. It keeps things from going further. Well, you can make all kinds of interesting functional structures with those two features. Right? We build a house and we build it, you know, like all out of the solid stuff. A bunch of bones, and we nail them together with more little bones, and there's our house. And the earthquake comes and it shakes it down. But when you build out of, you know, sticks and ropes, you can, and if you're smart, if you're really creative with sacred geometry and look at how does the body do it, you can build a body that can move, that's flexible, and is very stable, very structurally sound, with minimum materials. We talked before about how the tissue swells, how there's pressure, there's this growth of the water in the body that holds the consciousness, the energy, the spirit, and protects the cell membrane from viruses and that sort of thing. So we have the support system that's composed of the bones. What's inside the bones? The bone marrow makes all the blood. The whole cardiovascular system is part of this support system. Mm-hmm. Technically, in science, the cardiovascular system is a connective tissue. Diabetes is a connective tissue disorder by classification. It's a connective tissue. It connects us. Part of the blood is the immune system. It's a connective tissue. It connects, the blood cell can go into most tissues and correct the connective tissue on the micro scale. need to dissolve this, let's make it acidic, we'll make it inflamed, we'll dissolve all this stuff, clean out the mess, and then go alkaline slowly and put in new structure, make it nice and clean. Unless, of course, we put an anti-inflammatory drug or antibiotic in there that alkalizes it before we're ready. Now we have the remnants of the immune system, and the pus is in there, and the bacteria that was infecting it is in there, and the toxin that was blocking our metabolism is in there, that allowed the bacteria to have a train it could grow in, and the drug's in there. And so it's this toxic gel, it's gelatinized, it's made more solid, but it's, as the body gets stronger and healthier, it's going to want to clean that out. That's still the function of the immune system, to clean up that bigger mess. We just made a bigger mess. So we can reduce symptoms. A symptom is a waveform. Oh, I feel this, I notice this, I'm on this wave. And we can move off of that wave by pushing the wave back, by holding the wave back, or by helping it move forward. Maybe by stimulating other waves that carry some of that volume of that wave off in different directions. They stimulate pathways. The body never has too many pathways. Like it doesn't have too many organs. It's rare. An organ deficiency? Not usually. So the ultimate solution, to a medicine of peace, where we're at peace with our body, and we're looking at our body as if it's gone bad and it's attacking us with these symptoms. It's making me suffer. Okay? Good opportunity to develop virtue. Patience, number one. How many things, when I was practicing as a doctor, I'd go to a seminar and be, this required education, and I'm told that, well, prescribe a steroid for that, even though it's self-limiting. The body's going to do just as, going to treat it itself. You're not going to speed up the healing. You're not going to help anything. But prescribe a steroid because they expect something. It's give them a placebo. Mm-hmm. Doesn't make sense. Didn't make sense to me. So the immune system, very deep, not the deepest level. The deepest, so lymph is part of that, carries the white blood cells, the waste collection system for the tissues. Every cell has an open-ended lymph vessel, as we talked about. And so the deepest level, imagine what life would be like if you were missing these two systems. If you had no muscles. Okay, now a bag of support, bones and blood, and nowhere to go, nothing to do. So that the muscles are in our deepest layer. And the other part of what I call the flow system, that allows us to move and flow. We're a fungus, essentially, by our genetic history, and not our cosmic parentage, but by our genetic history, we're descended from the fungus. And bacteria, because we got the mitochondria. So on that same layer with the muscles, from the same tissue layer, the other part of the flow system, as I call it, the kidneys. And they better flow too, because, if the kidneys aren't working, you're not going to stick around for your soul, spirit is not going to stick around for more than a day or so. And it's a fluid flow. And the movement of the muscles pumps the fluids of the lymph. As we've found out, the second pump that's new in this model, the pump of the structured water in the cells that pushes the extracellular fluid waste out into that open-ended lymph vessel. It takes out the trash. Yes, we have the integrity system, just like every cellular structure has its integrity, its definition of self, not self. And within that function, there's communication, there's receptors on the cell membrane, just like we have receptors in the skin. The cornea is a formation of the skin. The lens of the eye forms, it moves inside like the nervous system moves inside. So it's really part of the nervous system. It moves into the eye, which the retina forms as an outpouching of the brain. It's not a nerve, it's brain tissue. And you have the lens, which comes in, and what does it do? It transmits light. You ever think about the colors of organs? The nervous system is white. It's a communication system. Our cellular cytoskeleton, the collagen and the tubules, it's all white, it's clear. The research clearly shows that they're perfectly good fiber optics. They carry light communication. The best model of memory that's structurally based, that's explicit, describes memory as being associated with not only the intracellular support proteins, but also the extracellular, and the two meet at the cell membrane. And that membrane is where the action is in every cellular structure, from a plasma, a ball of plasma, like ball lightning. Picture that. That's a plasma that's in glow mode, so we see it. It's giving off light. But Professor Pop's research in Europe, he's for years and years looking at measuring the light that our cells give off. And it's coherent light. And it's given off especially when we're developing and changing and growing. And it's given off again especially when we're changing and degenerating. So change, we have to adapt and communicate and respond. And
Sparks fly.
There's sparks fly between those little marbles. And the time we give off the most is when a cell dies. The time when there's actually a study that measured a coherent change in mass was at human death, on an organismic cellular level. And we measured, and that measurement was biphasic. There were two parts. One was instantaneous, non-local, local to non-local, like I'm not here, I'm there. Like through the wormhole. The consciousness is gone. And there's another level of spirit that's connected, attached to that one, very likely. They go sequentially. The Chinese character for spirit is a sphere, a circle, drawn as a sphere, represented as a sphere with a dot in the center. Well, the dot in the center of a coherent sphere it's going to act as if it's one atom at that center point. So it's an accurate scientific description. And then there's three wavy lines. And so modeling what those wavy lines are that follow over time course, that like the tail of a comet. Very much like the tail of a comet. If our spirit is traveling through space, it's its own comet. It has a tail. The tail is electrically attached to the body, the head. So if you're healing, you want to, for sure, support that deepest level on up. Most important, if you're not urinating, get to a doctor. Find out what's happening. That's not something that you can play with. You can only go 24 hours. If you're urinating extra, that's a lot less to worry about. That's more likely a sign that your body knows what it's doing and has the resources to do something about it. You may be able to facilitate that, certainly, water and rest and all the chicken soup, the good things.
What about excessive thirst?
Excessive thirst, well, most of our bodies in this culture are dehydrated, and we often have thirst and then put in things that are actually further dehydrating. Caffeine, sugar, alcohol, carbonated drinks. Americans drink for the last 10 years or so, or 15 years almost, more carbonated beverages than water. And then the water, if it's tap water, we know it's low energy phase 1 water, so it's going to tend to wash our bodies with terrain that supports chronic degenerative disease and cancer and all the things that we'd like to avoid. So ionized water that's high in electrons, that's alkaline, like that biological water, so the body can make that biological water out of it more easily, less waste to eliminate.
The earth is a perfect environment for our biological bodies to be formed and spirit and to enter and first experience the biological body, and earth has been created for that reason.
The whole universe is created with that function.
Yeah.
We're not alone. It's a living universe.
Mm-hmm.
It is God's body, and we're cells. It's all cellular structure, and we are absolutely cells in God's body. And as living cells, as viable, what we call spiritually is what's called viable cells in God's body, we have the navigational capacity to levitate on out of here when the biological has served its purpose. And we're done. with this life and ready for whatever's next on the program.
Mhm.
On the dance card.
How's it get any better than this?
Well, it doesn't stop. It keeps getting better. That's the point. That's the point. We will never be bored.
You don't really understand it unless you can explain it in a simple way. That was something that you kind of touched on earlier. And I was
Yeah, it's what I can't do, and so I'm working on it.
Yeah.
My challenge, because in my mind, I see it all really clearly. I'm
Yeah.
a visual thinker, I'm a relational thinker, and so to put it into words, it's like Einstein with his theory. It was a thought experiment. He contemplated, well, what if I can't figure it all out? So what if I look at only gravity, only the weakest of all the at that time 4 forces, and say on the biggest scale, on a first order level, love is mine. How would it work? What would that mean if that were the only thing that were happening? And so we get to see through that lens. We get to see how gravity sees the world. If you're a graviton, that's how you see the world. That's the mathematics, that's the function. And then there's 4 other entities.
Mhm.
The graviton is directly carried by that sea of knowledge. Gravity works non-locally. If the sun didn't know where the earth were, if the earth didn't know where the sun was, the earth would go spinning out of control. They know exactly. It's not reacting to where the sun was, a minute ago, when electromagnetic waves left. The gravitational wave is virtually instantaneous, or even depending on the model, it's either in reverse time. So from our perspective, it's more than instantaneous. They know quite well where the other one is. And that's the one I tend to go with. It gives me more explanatory power for the phenomenon of life. That it has to include not just what we can reproduce with a certain mindset, scientific mindset, a laboratory on a bench, or a lot of modern science is more in a computer with mathematics, which is another wonderful lens, another wonderful tool. But that's a tool of the light realm. We're seeing it in our mind's eye and describing with symbols how somebody else can see that same exact thing. That's the language of shape, of form.